Hey guys, I just wanted to kind of try out something. I haven't really thought much about this, and never really did this before. So here goes. Um, some people me, Kelly. I have a son of Ben and Kathy Clark, and I'm 43 years old, and I have family of my own. I have son Grayson. He's going on 7, he's 6 right now, but the other kids in my family that I've been blessed with to raise. One of them is 12, going on 13. The other one is 16, going on 17, and another is just turned 20 and has a little boy of her own, and he's a cool little guy. So anyway, I'm a Christian man, and I enjoy that quite a bit, and it's a big part of my life. And I wanted to kind of just share a little bit of my testimony, and I just hope that it will be a help to someone. Okay. So as I grew up, I grew up in South Phoenix. And, so um, my parents went to church, and well, since I can remember anyway, I think I was 3 or 4 or something like that when I started to go. And I don't have any real good memories of it. Maybe something around 5 years old, somewhere around there ish. And so we would go to a little church. We actually lived next door to for a little while, and in those services, we saw quite a few manifestations of the Spirit, and we saw and heard, people being healed, and people being free of possessions, and spirits being cast out, things like this. And so I was used to this kind of thing growing up as a kid, and to about teenager years, and ended up getting baptized about 16 years old. And from about third grade up to about 16 years old, we were homeschooled. My mom decided to take on that challenge, and I'm sure we gave her quite a challenge. Anyway, we did that, 4 of us kids. I have, a brother, and I have an older brother and 2 younger sisters. And my younger sisters got kids of their own too, and we're pretty close in age. And anyway, so I got baptized, and probably for the next 2 years after that or so, we were still going to church. And I don't know what happened. Something somewhere within our family kind of fell apart or broke. I remember that 18 years old or so, we saw my parents divorce. They went their own ways, and about that time, I decided to hit the road and do my own thing. Made a pretty big mess out of my life for about 2 years, and then I decided I needed to do something radically to change my life, and I went into the military. Now, during these 2 year stint or so, well, 4 year stint from 16 to 20, um, there was kind of just a huge falling off. I didn't stay keeping my life dedicated to God at all. Matter of fact, I turned pretty worldly and just did everything. Everything I couldn't do as a kid, I ended up doing, and everything I said I wouldn't do, I did. So, moral of that story is don't say never. And so, went through that phase, and about 20 years old, ended up going to the military, ended up actually in another country, Korea. So I went halfway around the world. So where was I running to? I don't know. Seems like I was running away from my life and everything else, and just trying to figure out what to do with my life. And I knew I needed to do something, and I thought the military was a good answer for it. And boy, was I wrong. I got into that, and find out that your life is not your own anymore, and you can't just go home, and you can't quit. So we learned real quick how to do things when things got hard, and when things weren't easy, you kind of kept going, and learned that your body can go further than your mind thinks. So your mind really is what's stopping you most of the time. But anyway, I'm not trying to get into this for that reason, but still true. Ah, so Stayed there in Korea for a couple of years, ended up getting married to my first wife over there, and ended up coming back to the States in 2000 and it was 2003. Yeah, 2003. I came home. 2002. 2002, I think is what it was. Came home, and I had about 5 months left that I needed to serve out of my 3 years. And I was stationed in Fort Hood, Texas, and some few things happened there, during that time. I was about 23, somewhere around there. And um, my first wife had gotten pregnant, and it went bad. She almost died in the process. So that was hard. Had to have the baby aborted because of it. It was going to kill her. It's an emergency situation. And, like, we had to rush her to the hospital kind of thing. It was not a joke. That was hard. And so uh, I kind of just from that point forward started focusing on myself and making my life better every single year. Like went to college, tried to get a degree, didn't pan out, and I kind of got tired of doing that and took on some jobs. I was working two jobs at the same time at one point. And then I decided to move to Austin, Texas from where I was right there at Fort Hood. And so we were in apartments there for a few years, and I was able to, purchase my first brand new car. It was BMW, and I love that thing. It was an amazing machine, brand new, 2006 BMW 328i. I was proud of it, but and my spouse also ended up with a Mercedes, and so we were just kind of, living high on life at that time, and drinking, hanging out with friends, and doing whatever. I mean, we didn't really get into trouble, didn't do anybody wrong, nothing like that. But I still had things that every once in a while you make mistakes, and so eating what I wanted, doing what I wanted to. Um, at one point, kind of caught up to me, and I remember one night I was about 26 or 28, somewhere around there. I think it was 28. And in the middle of the night, I got woke up out of my sleep like 3 in the morning, and I'm under severe pain in my stomach. And I'm like, I don't even know what's going on. And I mean, this pain is like so high and hard that it's like going through my stomach all the way through my head, just like that much pain. I don't know what's going on. So eventually, you know, um, I'm able to go to the restroom and everything is okay. And I go back to sleep and I'm like, weird. And shortly after that, I find out my dad is diagnosed with terminal cancer or his liver. They give him a year if he ain't got something to replace. And so that was pretty hard of me. Me and my dad were very close. And so, I didn't know what I was going to do if my dad wasn't around. I was young and still felt like I liked talking to my dad and having him around. So between that time, somewhere in there, he ended up getting worse, and I ended up buying a house and moving into another city a little bit further out of town. And also at that point, I had decided that I was going to go back to college, and so that's kind of fast forwarding up to about 2014, no, 2012, yeah. So I finally decided, okay, I'm going to quit doing these other kind of jobs, because I was doing everything from like being call center person. You call up for support, and I would answer your questions about what was wrong with your internet, your cable, or your TV, or something like that. And years before that, I'd worked in Samsung plants where they're doing manufacturing, and I worked in a Cisco manufacturing plant. So I'd done a lot of hands-on labor type work. And it's not to say that before, when I was a kid, I didn't do anything else that was hard. Obviously, I was prior military. I'm used to that. I did that for 3 years, and that was really tough. A lot of challenging things then. So um, mentally speaking, I had what it took to keep going, and but my body started breaking down. I was gaining weight, and when I was in the military, it was like about 170, 100, probably about 160 pounds, yeah. And then I got married, and I started eating and started cooking and all this stuff. And so I ended up being about 200 pounds almost, pretty close. And around then is when I started noticing problems with my health. And so through that time from when I was 28 to the time that I'm talking to you about now, in between those times, what had happened is I started getting extreme pains, ended up being in the hospital. My stomach has just been killing me. It's all related to something where my insides just don't function right. They don't fire in the right order, and I get extreme pain. So, uh, I've been hospitalized several times. I end up needing like morphine shots, like 5 of them consecutively just to dull the pain. So I did that many times. And about 2010, though, just before that 2012 incident, I actually did try to come back to the Lord at that point. And before that time, I had just been living like a heathen. And didn't exactly take, I called my pastor when I was in Texas and he was in Arizona. And I called him and he spoke to me about it a little bit. And he said, there's sometimes people um, when they're running from God, and God has a way of getting a hold of our attention. And he said, if you want to, pray with me and bring your life back to the Lord, and we'll see what God can do. And so we prayed, and I felt like I made a commitment. I even contacted people that I had wronged in my past, and try to take care of things and clean my life up and live for God. And that went kind of okay, but I didn't really have the right church to anchor me and help me grow. Everywhere I went, there was Trinitarians, and I'm not a Trinitarian. I don't believe in that, and I knew that from when I was a kid. And so it was like I didn't know where to put my roots down. So I ended up being like that guy in the parable where his roots didn't really fall in a good place. They kind of just blew off, and so my seed really didn't plant then. And so again, I fell away. And my problem, I ended up finding a doctor. Actually, I had gone to, oh man, bunches of doctors, gastro doctors and all these kind of people, and no one could help me. Nobody knew what it was. Everybody's like, oh, it's functional, it's functional, it's functional. Great, what does that mean? And they would coin it as one term, and didn't really help anything. There was no cure. All right. So I guess I was like gonna have to, you know, work with my diet or whatever. I don't know. And so, I had talked to a naturopath doctor, and he started getting me on these supplements and things like that. And I guess I had all kinds of poisoning and all kinds of stuff inside my blood. And so we cleaned all that out. Took a while, a couple months. And then I started getting better for a little bit. And for about maybe I would say the last couple of years I was in Texas, it got better. But before that, though, in 2012, when I was going to college, I had gotten so sick to the point where I had dropped all the way from 190 pounds down to 128 pounds in 6 months. That's how sick I got. I mean, that almost sounds like somebody with cancer, but it wasn't. I just couldn't eat anything. I feared food because every time I ate, it would be painful. Every time I woke up in the morning, I'd be in pain immediately. And I never knew I had to take pain pills just to try to get through some of those attacks. I had no way of figuring out what was hurting me. What could I do? I was just kind of alone. And so after a while, all that mental toughness that I had built up in the military and over that time, to my very young 20s, had started to drop and started to beat me down mentally. And I couldn't fight anymore. I would just get to a point where I would be in pain. Of course, I'd be fighting, and I would shake from the pain and things like that. And I had the energy to kind of fight back. But after about an hour to 2 hours of it, you just kind of just sit there almost as if you were, laying on the ground like a dog, and somebody just kicking you over and over, and you just kind of just take the hit, you don't even react anymore. And that's kind of how it had gotten to for me. And it was torture. Every day was hell for me. I didn't want to live. I wanted to die. And so I'm getting older in age at that point, I'm into my 30s. And, I don't know what's going on. In 2011, I thought that, my ex-wife was the reason. Maybe I was overly stressed out. I had tried antidepressant pills, everything. You would not believe the things I tried. Even contemplated shock therapy at one point, which is just stupid. I would never do that. I didn't. Thank God. I don't want to lose any more models that I have already. But anyway, I got through that ridiculousness, and I was on medication. In 2011, I came back home to Arizona, left my ex-wife, and tried to come to Arizona. And I think, at that point, maybe God was still trying to just get my attention and say, hey, you're in the wrong place, get to where you need to be. And I thought that the cure was just to exit being married to that woman. I thought that was my source of my stress. Nah, it was the same, didn't help. So I think I stayed gone like 2 months. I said, all right, I give up, went back home, and we reconciled and whatnot. And I stayed with her for a few more years. And 2014, my dad still going through his issue, kind of escalated. He kind of went up and down, got better, and then he got real bad around 2014. And doctors were just like, I don't know. And so he was staying with me during my graduation, and he looked like death warmed over. I was really super skinny, like my skin was hanging off my bones. It was bad. Okay. And he looked like death warmed over. I looked like death. It was just terrible. And it was hard watching my dad go through it too. And then, on top of it, me and my wife were getting really distant, and things were just weren't working right. And I didn't want to be there. She didn't want me there, but she did. She didn't. I don't know. I'm not getting into that, but um, all the while, I'm still going through all of these problems with my stomach. This is now going on 10 years at this point. And so this is every day almost. Okay, so it went from like about every 6 months to 3 months to every month to every week, then every day. So, and that's kind of how the progression went. And I lived that way for many, many years. And so tortured, I was a tortured person, but didn't know how to help myself. Uh, so, uh, yeah, so there's a lot going on right there. Anyway, but I don't want to make this so long. We went through all that, and then one day I decided to leave again, and I went back to Arizona, and I left my wife for good this time. And I decided I was going to start my life over again, and in the process, I ended up marrying another woman. The lady that I'm married to now, she's and I think that if you ever have someone that God chooses for you and brings to you for a purpose and knows exactly what you need, that was her. She was first person that I ever could look at and respect as a woman, and she had my attention right the first time she spoke to me, and something about her just grabbed me, and I didn't think I could be in love again. I never thought that I would try to change my life. And, again, just I didn't have God there at that time, but as far as me serving Him, obviously He's always watching our life. You never know what's going to happen. But we got married about a year after meeting one another. My son was born, and yeah, I had my son Grayson at that time. Man, just proudest day of my life. She is an amazing mother, and she has 3 other kids, and she's a grandma too, and so yeah, it's all right. It's okay. It don't bother me, but she has a really great family too. They really knew how to be there for each other, and they were always kind to one another. And I never really heard of them fight, even though they didn't even have philosophical agreements. There's 3 different religions, well, 4 now, if you include us, that are mixed through the family, and they still come together and they eat, and they spend time, and they laugh, and they tell stories, and they still treat one another with kindness and respect. Genuinely, I don't mean like, hey, we're together, we're gonna pretend. Like these people genuinely love each other and show it, and I really appreciated that. And my family also accepted my wife really well, and so it was nice to see that. But There's so much detail to tell, I guess. But back to the pain thing that I was going through, it started to pick back up again. And I would say maybe in the last year, about November or so. A lot has happened even between that. And but the pain thing is what I'm trying to talk about. Last year, November, I decided I was going to go back to my home church, and because I remember them having miracles there and people getting helped and things like that. And I said, you know what, God, okay, I give up. What do you have for me? I give up. Whatever you want to do with me, just do with me. And so I went and just listened. I was there by myself. I didn't bring my wife or nobody. And then I came back a couple of more times, and on the third time or so, I think I went during the church service, during the preaching. Um, I wasn't really, catching on much. I wasn't really making any changes that much, but I was there, And so during one of the services, I was there again by myself, and I started having an attack during the service, and I'm like starting to shake from the pain. And so the service is usually about an hour. So I just kind of put my head down, and I really didn't want to bring any attention to myself. And because I knew that, like, the preaching the word of God was more important than what I was feeling. And I knew that I could wait, but it was still pretty intense. It was a hard one. And so we got pretty close to the end, and I knew he's trying to wrap it up. And I just raised up my hand. I said, "Hey, can somebody help me?" And I just said it like right there in front of everybody, because I was just done. I was just so in pain. I didn't know what to do with myself. So, my pastor says, "Sure, brother, come on up." And so I stand to my feet and I take my steps and I stumble. And it's not because I trip, because I've been in pain so much that typically pain after that much time takes away your energy. And so I stumble and I start walking down the aisle, and I'm walking up. Okay. I get about, I would say, 10 feet away. And something I walk into, it's like a wall, something, like a shower just walk into. He grabs my hand and he prays. And instantly, my pain goes away like somebody had turned a dial on a radio. I found something that helped me. It means in this moment, telling that story still just every single time. And from that day forward, I said, "Oh, God, I don't want to tell my story to believe that would listen every chance I get a chance." And so I'm kind of running out of people. So I'm going to share it this way. But anyway, crybaby. So it means that much to me, because you don't know what I've gone through this many years to be tortured that long. Okay. To search with no hope and have nothing to help. And within a second, I don't know anything else like this. Right? The whole service ends. People know who I am because I've grown up there as a kid, and we're talking. Everybody leaves. Even the pastor just left and gone to his house. And his house is there on the property. And I start walking to my vehicle to get in to go. And I've got my hands in my pockets, and I'm just walking. And my feet keep walking past the car. And I remember asking myself out loud, I'm like, "Where are you going? Car's right there." And I keep walking, and I get to the front of the door of his house, and I was like, "Knock." He answers the door. "Yes, brother." And I said, "I don't know why I'm here." And he said, "Okay, come in." And so we go to talking just a little bit, him and his wife, and we talk for a little while, and then talk about things of God and family, some asking questions and whatnot. Pastor's never been pushy about any of that. He'll talk to you about anything. Cars is his favorite thing, but I never push anything on him. And I was asking questions, and I started getting agitated or nervous, inside. My stomach was like kind of shaking again, and my pain started building up. And so I told him, and he's like, "Yeah, all right, give me your hand." And so me and him prayed, and instantly, like quicker than the first time, it was gone. And I was like, "Wow, wow," you know. And so we keep talking for a little bit longer, and a third time it comes back and it happens again. And this time, pastor and his wife both pray together, and again, like that, just gone. And I was just like, wow, okay, so like three, 3 times, okay, I know there's something to do with this, so I'm convinced. There's nothing involved there except God. Uh, that wasn't a chance. It wasn't a fluke. That was instantaneous. And I'm here to tell you today is that if you do not believe in miracles, I am living proof. Okay, I'm walking, living, breathing proof. And nobody can tell me there ain't no God. I know it for myself. Right? Not too many people have the opportunity to have something happen to them to where they can hold on to something and give them faith and to believe. Okay, a lot of us end up being somebody called Doubting Thomas. And remember when Jesus came back from the dead, and in that beautiful glorified body, and he appears in the room to the disciples, and they're like, he's there, and there's a few of them that can't really believe that it's him. And Thomas was one of them. He tells him to come here, and he says, "Put your hand in my hand, where they put the nails through in my side. Put it here and see where they pierce me." And then he's, you know, falls down to worship because he realizes it's him. And he says, "Blessed." Jesus says, "Blessed is the person who has not seen yet still believes." So, faith and belief is definitely a blessing to those who haven't seen, but those who have seen and have heard something or have experienced special, and it definitely creates some sort of cement, a bond that locks you uh, to that, to understanding that God's real. And from that moment forward, I don't know, just something started to change inside of me. I used to listen to heavy metal, rock and roll music. That was my favorite thing. And let me tell you something about that. That music carries a spirit with it. I guarantee 100%. My grandfather was into it. My dad was into it. I'm into it. And it didn't take me on my little son to start going, "Wow, yeah, this is cool." Was really into it. Okay. Love, he started to like it too. I was like, "Oh boy, what kind of can did I open?" You know, and I regretted doing that. But thank God, got a hold of me fast enough to head that off. But that music, I recall listening to some of those artists, and when I would listen to them, the hair on my arms would just stand up just from some of those songs. And I remember just sitting there holding my steering wheel because I loved to listen to music when I was in the car. I remember just kind of just trying to feel into that feeling, just how it would come all over me. And that was to like heavy metal music, right? That stuff, I would say, worships the devil. So better believe it, there's something there, because I know that sitting in church and listening to some songs, or if I speak to someone about God, even telling you this testimony right now, I can feel his presence come to me. And so each of them, God and the devil both can carry these anointings with them. So, be careful of what you're listening to out there. If you think that you could be a Christian and listen to that kind of music, you think that it's all right. No, you're opening a door and you're allowing Satan to come in. He has permission to do things to you. So we have to live a separated, clean life before God, a life that is pleasing to him. And so, every single time, that's my prayer, is like, "Lord, how can I please you?" And I noticed that in my own life, he started taking away desires. I have no desire for that music anymore, just instantly. I don't care about that stuff anymore. Just all these kind of things just started falling off, blah, 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 blah. I don't even care about these things. It's almost like, so what? I didn't even care. And I didn't want to do them anymore. And the only thing I could do is I started becoming hungry for the Word of God, and pick up a Bible and start reading, and wanted to study more and more about what God has for us, and I just couldn't put it down. And the Lord was blessing me with trying to reveal things to me, and I was fortunate to, be in contact and blessed with a pastor that had a desire for the depth of the word, and it just kind of like drew me, and just pulled me. I just couldn't get enough. And even to this day, it's still I have the excitement for it. And we're going on almost about a year. So next month it'll be a year. And, for myself, typically, we find in my life that I would obsess over things, and I would go find something else to do after a while. This is an obsession I can't let go of. And I thank God, it's just there's nothing like this. Nothing. I've never felt more peace, happiness in my life. Nothing can touch this. I've done drugs. I've been with women. I've had money. I've had things. I've been able to walk into a store. There was nothing I couldn't buy. Nothing. Perfect credit. Nothing I couldn't get. Money in the bank. 6 or 7 paychecks sitting on the counter. Didn't need them. I've experienced all that in a very short amount of time. I'm still telling you, there's nothing better than this. Have a relationship with your creator, that he loves you, that he wants to be with you. He created you. That's your purpose in life. When I was young, when I was in my 30s, I started to question, what am I here for? What am I doing? What's life even about? Oh, well, maybe there's just well, space is a big place. I was kind of a nerdy kind of guy. And space is a really big place. And it would just be a really waste of space if we were the only ones. And so I convinced myself of this, and aliens were real and all this other kind of garbage. And you know what that is? It's just a distraction, the devil. It's a lie trying to pull you from the truth. If God had decided to create life out there, we don't know about it. He hasn't told us yet. But honestly, I kind of believe that we're it right now. So what his plans are for the rest of the universe, I don't know. And whatever he wants to do, it's his decision. But right now in my life belongs to him. And I'm here to tell you that I love the Lord Jesus Christ. He died for our sins. And there's no greater gift given to man except for the Lord Jesus Christ giving his blood for all of us. If you haven't committed your life to the Lord Jesus Christ today, or maybe you're out and you're kind of just messing around in sin and maybe kind of just playing with the world a little bit, the Bible tells us that we cannot serve God and mammon at the same time. One of these masters will win, because you're going to hate one and love the other. Okay, so you can't be 1 foot over here and 1 foot over here. Right? It's true fact. There's 2 spirits in the world. We don't have God, us, and the devil. It's one or the other. We cannot. If we say that we'll do nothing, it doesn't matter. It's not going to change anything. We end up serving one or the other. All right. So honestly, I'd rather end up on the side of good, because things are going to wind up pretty soon, and I'm personally getting ready. And if you want to come, you're welcome. You ask me, and I'll share my faith with you the best I can. Taking enough of your time, and thanks for listening to me. God bless those who received something tonight, and those who haven't, I pray for you too. All right.